And in a way, we were sort of waiting for our own generation to come up with something, to speak.
Steve.
Gary.
And I'm John.
Nice to meet you.
And you.
Gary and Steve, first question for you. Do you still recall your first meeting?
When we were teenagers or recently?
No, teenagers.
Ever.
Ever.
We spoke
So
about it
pre-Spandau
recently,
Ballet.
and I can't pin it down. There was a little period when we started to.
Yeah, we were
check out
both
bands.
kind of soul boys, really, weren't we? That was soul music, kind of was our first.
We had our soul music.
Yeah, no, yeah, right. And I used to go around to his house, and he'd play me, you know, Stevie Wonder tracks and different songs that he was into. And actually, I think we met in in a guitar lesson at school, didn't we?
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, I
could
seem
be.
to remember, we were both learning the guitar.
Okay. And when did you enter the picture?
I only met him yesterday. I don't know. It's all new to me. I was in the year above these guys at school, so normally 2 years don't mix very much.
Yeah.
But as school moved out of London, and for my last year, so we were sort of thrown together because we were all from Islington boys.
Yeah.
So yeah, sixth form common room and
Music room.
The music room.
The music room. I used to go down at lunchtimes to play a bit of drums, and Steve used to come down and play a bit. So yeah, so it's 1976, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it was the September after we'd seen the Sex Pistols play, and I think that was the big, change for us. Certainly for me.
Why?
It was just an extraordinary night, just watching what these young kids could do.
Yeah.
Of course, they were a few years older than us. We were even younger, 16. So I was already in a band, and when I went back into school in the September, these guys were hanging out in the music room, and I joined them, and we very quickly formed our own band.
Can you say that the three of you, that was maybe the beginning, the actual beginning of Spandau Ballet?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, no, totally.
The other two are not here.
Minus my brother.
I know. That's true. And when did you? Well, I think the first name was called The Makers.
Well, there were several names before
Okay,
that, but I mean, the first time we played together was at school,
Yeah.
at a school disco in October '76, I think, something like that. So it's a little time ago.
So what was it with the name The Makers? Who came up with it?
Steve.
I was listening to stuff like the early Who and a band called The Creation in particular, who were kind of like Who wannabes, I always thought. But they had a few good singles. And I just saw it on a shop billboard once. I'm not going to tell you what it said, but part of the word was Makers. And I just thought, oh,
It's on the Essex Road, isn't it?
It's on, Angel Islington.
Yeah.
It was Homemakers, in fact. And they sold beds. But I saw it, I remember looking around for a bus.
Finding
and
out a lot
I saw
today,
Makers there, because something was obscuring the home bit of this name. And I thought The Makers, The Creation, that was kind of where we were at the time, all that early R&B.
Yeah. So what was the sound back then? Can you?
Well, I mean,
Early R&B.
Yeah,
Power pop, really, wasn't it?
we started playing, tunes you knew, so Rolling Stones tunes and simple R&B stuff, and out of that, we started creating our own music. But yeah, it was power pop. It was, 2 guitars and quite fast, aggressive pop tunes.
And when did the name Spandau Ballet came?
Well,
came
the
to
band
picture?
I think the band reached about as far as they could, really. We were too young to ever be successful in that time, playing that kind of genre of music. And in a way, we were sort of waiting for our own generation to come up with something, to speak. And that really started for us in 1978, when we walked into a little tiny club called Billy's, which was this sad old club in Soho that on a Tuesday night was run by a couple of exotic, strange characters, Steve Strange and Rusty Egan. And they played electronica, really. It was craft work, mostly German music, and mixed with Bowie and Roxy music, which was really what we grew up on. Bowie for me was my first frisson in rock music at all. As an 12-year-old, and so that became, that was, now we realise something is happening. It was exotic looking. It was, people were dressing up. And we became the house band, really, and so we needed a better name than The Makers.
I mean, I think that the few years playing as The Makers and playing pubs and local venues, it's sort of knocked us into shape. By the time, you know, we were ready for it in 1978, because we were a good band and we were playing together well, we just needed a sort of mantle to assume and something to hang it on, really.
And the synthesizer was really the big change, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was the only one old enough to actually enter a hire purchase agreement. So we bought a synthesizer on the drip and had to extort the money out of them every week. And that changed everything.